The 2016 election and what happened after is under scrutiny yet again as the Justice Department opens a grand jury investigation into the Obama-era probe of Russian interference.
We've already handed over the documents that we've declassified and released publicly over the last few weeks.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard tells Fox the Trump campaign Russia collusion investigation was manipulated in a treasonous conspiracy.
There is a sitting president of the United States. There is a director of the CIA, a director of national intelligence under President Obama, the head of the NSA, James Comey is the head of the FBI, all coming together, and this is documented in what we released, all coming together to create this lie with the intent of delegitimizing the duly elected president of the United States because the person they wanted to win actually lost.
Well, a spokesman for former President Obama calls the allegations bizarre and outrageous, as Democrats dismiss the investigation as just politics. Congressman Jason Crow tells Fox
the allegations and the conspiracy theories by Tulsi Gabbard would be sad if they weren't so dangerous. She has turned herself into basically a weapon of mass distraction.
But Trey Gowdy, who was a Republican on the House Intelligence Committee during the Democrat-led Trump-Russia collusion investigation in 2017 and in 2018, while Special Counsel Robert Mueller also investigated, he disagrees.
I don't think there's any statute of limitations on the truth, and I think the allegations are really, really serious.
A former Republican congressman from South Carolina, Trey Gowdy, is now the host of Sunday Night in America on Fox News Channel at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can also hear him on the Trey Gowdy podcast.
And if you look at what's been recently declassified, there was a concerted effort. And it's one thing for a campaign to launch a misinformation, these allegations of collusion between then candidate Trump and Russia, a foreign adversary. It's one thing for a campaign to do that. I mean, it's not right, but we're not surprised. We are really surprised when the intelligence community and law enforcement, CIA and FBI, are part and parcel of this conspiracy to redirect people's attention, distract, divert. Not only did they try to keep Trump from winning, they really legitimately cast a cloud over the entirety of his first term.
Okay, so in the declassified information, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, she is alleging here that what they've done is they sort of changed the narrative that back in 2016, after the election, they did assert that the Russians didn't really successfully hack into any voting systems. They attempted Illinois, and that was about it. But then they changed the narrative, is what the allegation is, that the focus was just on Russian influence and Russian interference and their attempt to help the Trump campaign. And I've seen a lot of Democrats say that that's just hogwash, that influencing of the election was real, and there was no changing of the narrative. They just focused on what Russia attempted to do to influence our politics. What's your reaction to them trying to shoot down this whole narrative by the Trump administration?
Well, if you go back now, it's not new. It wasn't new to those of us on House Intel. Devin Nunes led the authoring of a report. We did an extensive investigation. We interviewed more people than I can count, and I asked every one of them the exact same question. Give me every bit of evidence you have, no matter the source, of collusion, coordination, conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia. I even said, you can give me non-admissible evidence. Give me hearsay. No one had anything. So what Devin concluded was that, yes, Russia was interested in disrupting our republic and causing friction in our republic, but they didn't have a clear preference for a winner. What the media wanted to hear is that Russia wanted Trump to win. If you think about it for a second, Russia had a lot more negative information on Hillary Clinton as a result of their hack of the DNC, other hacks. So they had a lot more negative information on Secretary Clinton than they ever disseminated publicly. So if you really want Donald Trump to win, why would you not go all in and just share everything negative you knew about Hillary Clinton? So what we're also finding out, which is new, thanks in large part to John Radcliffe declassifying John Brennan's notes, is this was more than just Clinton hiring Fusion GPS to go dig up untrue dirt, salacious, untrue dirt on Donald Trump. It was more than that.
That's the Steele dossier's origins, right? The Fusion
Yes,
GPS.
the Steele
right?
dossier, which is laughable when you go to the Bureau, which I have done, and look at their attempts to validate or verify the information in the dossier. It is laughable. There's no prosecutor in the world that would use that dossier, but yet the FBI used it. And they knew that that dossier was unverified, unvetted. They knew that Christopher Steele had been fired as one of their own informants. If you remember, I asked John Brennan under oath, did you rely on the Steele dossier as any part of your intelligence analysis? And he said no.
Okay,
Well,
so he's the
that was
CIA
a
director.
lie.
Yeah, so you're saying he lied to you in Congress.
Well, there's no doubt he lied. There's absolutely no doubt he lied.
Okay, so you do have Democrats also say, well, even though the Mueller investigation did not lead to a Trump impeachment, it did lead to people having to plead guilty, and it led to some of information that they couldn't prove the Trump campaign was involved, but there were allegations or there was something, and they couldn't indict the president anyway, even if they found it, right? I mean, that is not ultimately.
Well, yeah, you can't indict the president just like you can't. Now the Supreme Court's told us you're not going to be able to indict Barack Obama, even if you had a factual predicate anyway. I would just say this. It was pretty clear when Bob Mueller appeared before Congress that he didn't know a whole lot about the Mueller report. It was led by a guy named Andrew Weissman. And if anybody in the world has personal animus towards Donald Trump beyond Peter Strzok, it would be Andrew Weissman.
You were with the president when we got the first news about what's in the Mueller report, right?
Yes. We were in Florida together when Bill Barr, then AG Bill Barr, summarized the Mueller report. Of course, remember, special counsel reports to the attorney general, and then the attorney general decides whether or not to publicize it. So he summarized it. I can just tell you, two people were not surprised at all with what Mueller found and then Barr publicized, and that was me and the president, because the president knew he had not colluded or conspired or coordinated with Russia, and I knew based on our investigation that he had not done so. So it may have been newsworthy to the rest of the world, but we were not surprised.
All right, let's get to the Durham annex. That came out, previously classified information in the special counsel John Durham probe into the Russia probe. It was made public last week. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, I want you to hear what he said on Fox last week about this information, underscoring the goal of the probe that started in 2016.
And to make it look like Russia was playing a very major role in helping Trump to be elected, and now we know none of that was true. And now with this Durham report annex out, it finally proves that the FBI was covering up.
Do you agree? It proves.
Yes.
It proves. What is it that proves?
Oh, yes. Well, it proves. I mean, look at the information from Russian sources. They were counting on the FBI to pour fuel on this fire. This little spark that, oh, by the way, Donald Trump did some really bad things in Russia. They were counting on the FBI to aid and abet the Clinton campaign's efforts to discredit Donald Trump. I mean, people remember the salacious allegations of the Steele dossier. Well, the FBI put its imprimatur. They legitimized that. They used it in FISA filings. They leaked it to the media so the media could report on it. And then you got Brennan, who made sure that it was included in the post-election ICA. So you got the Bureau helping. They launched an investigation into Donald Trump based on the Steele dossier. We now know that. Now, they lied to us when we asked them earlier. They told us, number one, Trump's not the target of the investigation. Number two, no, it's got nothing to do with his candidacy. I mean, they looked us in the eyes and told us that.
Well, they maintain that the Crossfire Hurricane was not initially started as a result of the dossier, that the dossier comes out months later. That's what they've said.
That's what they've said. Then go look at who signed Crossfire Hurricane, Peter Strzok. Peter Strzok signed it, and I read the application, and it says Trump campaign, despite the fact, despite what they said.
And he's the one for the text messages with Lisa Page, right? The FBI.
Which we later found that, thanks to Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General for DOJ, really an unprecedented level of bias. He's the one who said, I could smell Trump supporters in a Walmart and Clinton should win $100 million to nothing. This is who was investigating candidate Donald Trump. I mean, you mean the FBI can't do better than that?
Carter Page was related to the Trump campaign, and they did use the Steele dossier in, you mentioned FISA warrants to get wiretaps onto Carter Page. That never led to anything, right? Carter Page was never charged with anything, correct?
Because he wasn't an agent of Russia. That's why he wasn't. I mean, not only did they surveil him, they got 3 renewals to that application. It was all based on the Steele dossier. And if you remember correctly, the FBI didn't even want to put in the application for a surveillance warrant that the Clinton campaign had funded it. If you're a FISA judge, wouldn't you want to know that this was opposition research? I mean, it's one thing to say the FBI, hey, we found this out. We investigated it. We're apolitical. That's not the way it happened. This came from the Clinton campaign. So what we've learned is there really was collusion with Russia. It was just the exact opposite of what we were led to believe.
What do you think should come out of this new investigation?
You know, I don't know whether there's going to be a statute that the grand jury can consider that a prosecutor has a realistic probability of a successful outcome. I don't know that. But I do know there are other ways to hold people accountable. Look, I know people like think of prison as the only form of punishment. Sometimes, and I think it was John Durham who actually mentioned this. All prosecutors say it, but he memorialized it. All bad conduct does not result in prison time. It's a shame, but it doesn't. So we have to have other ways, whether it is history judging you poorly. The question is whether Barack Obama, who is messianic in some people's eyes, whether or not history goes back and reviews what role he played in literally casting a cloud over his successor's presidency.
How much do you think coverage of this is going to happen in, as people like to say, the mainstream media?
None. Well, I mean, they were obsessed. I couldn't walk from one building to another without people asking me about it when I was on Capitol Hill. But now that the narrative is completely different, now that the collusion really took place between the Clinton campaign and Russia, no, they're not interested in that. But that's also why when you ask Americans what's the number one threat to our republic, they cite the media as the number one threat. And this is why.
Trey Gowdy, you can watch him Sunday night in America, 9 p.m. Eastern time on the Fox News channel. You can hear him on the Trey Gowdy podcast, former congressman, Republican from South Carolina. Great to have you on. Thanks so much for being here.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.